I'm Joe Blevins, author of The Familiar. Lock your doors and say your prayers, for evil abounds everywhere. The Familiar, a Gothic tale of terror. Today I'm going to read a small sample of my work, a chapter called The Seance. November 15th, 1639. A few weeks of rain kept us in tight quarters where we were in each other's way. Well, Leah has the idea to invite some others like us to join us until the vernal equinox in the springtime. The sun sets, so the candles are lit to burn bright. The big book of enchantments is brought out with great pomp and ceremony. We wear our nicest clothes to dress like we are about to visit royalty. Well, Leah turned the book of spells to the pages where the spell calls out for people who died in a tragic way. She calls out what she needs to know and cuts herself. By itself, the book opens and turns to the page she needs. She calls the spell Providi Intrum. Well, Leah touched the right corner with her cut finger. Many animals are sacrificed, and some most terrible words are spoken that made me fearful for the first time in memory. Well, Leah continued on with her spells and chants. We held hands to complete the circle as the rest of the spell was now finished. We are to drink the blood of the sacrificed animals like it was a fine wine. Some wine was then poured into the goblet to make it more palatable. Well, Leah poured some of the blood from a large silver goblet to make a full circle of blood on the floor where we sat. Well, Leah closed the enchanted book and hid it away in her cedar closet. Lightning crashed down as much rain fell. The house we stayed in shuddered and creaked as the storm tried its hardest to destroy us all. Part of the roof blew off. Rain poured in one corner of the room. We continued on, and a sudden stillness came. All the doors and windows came open at once. Strange visitors of all sorts ended our presence to the open doors and windows. One was a walking skeleton that whistled as it walked in, holding a rough cane to steady itself. It was missing the left arm altogether. The whole thing was battered and broken, and it barely held together. It rattled as it walked, and its eyes looked to be glassy like a mad, dazed person. This made our hair stand on end as it neared us. I stepped back to give a wide berth to this creature. This is evil, and nothing good will come from this person. Well, Leah could not call it back from where it came because it made lightning strike close to the house. It pointed its right hand and its walking stick at the different compass directions. It then waved the walking stick as if it was stirring the air like a windmill. Odd spirits followed close to it since it looked to be the leader of the group. These spirits stood in a circle walking around him. They joined hands to unite their powers as one entity. They praised him in strange words to try to glorify him. He must be their leader. I felt sick, but there was no way to leave the room or avoid their near presence. I tried to move away, but the skeleton barred my path with that long walking stick. Its eyes glowed green and then red like coals in a fire. It shook its head no, and then it opened its mouth to speak, and his jaw became unhinged just to hang slowly on the right side. It cocked its head and pushed the jaw back in place until it locked. Then it gestured with its right arm and waved the walking stick high in a circular motion. What have we done to open the door to this one? The skeleton said some chant words and glowed white, then yellow, then orange to red as a thick fog comes all around it. The fog clears up directly as the skeleton emerges to walk around the room as it fleshes out with new muscle and sinew. It is now easier to look upon the bony figure since it has now taken an outward form of a complete man. The left arm is now quickly restored whole in the process. He put on some of Stephen's clothes that were laid out, just to make him look more acceptable and more distinguished. Stephen usually minded when I raided his wardrobe. I almost laughed because I was so scared and foolish. Tonight Stephen was silent for a change. Stress left me wanting to change my thoughts to something more jovial to escape what has just been witnessed on this terrible night. I need a drink really bad, a strong one. The restored man now spoke in a bold voice for the majority of the visiting guests. He told us he is a great warlock and that he is the leader of the group of oddities. We have no say in this. It all seemed to be like a bad dream I could not wake from. One particular spirit looked to be like an ancient Pequot warrior. 5 trolls in red cloaks covered their faces so we could not fully look upon them because they are so wicked. They fretted about, being quite impatient in our presence. We felt humbled by all these new creatures who made the witches at Salem look to be quite normal folks. We have just opened the door to some entities that made us pale in comparison. Our magic will look like cheap parlor tricks compared to any of these. We trembled in great fear to see such weakness in our powers. Well, Leah told Stephen and I to stand up to protect her. We tried, and they pushed us back down to the floor to kick and poke us. We lay on the floor and trembled to the point of being in a state of absence from our bodies. They circled around us to mock us. They walked around and chattered nonstop to provoke us for the longest time. We stayed put for fear of our quick demise. These strangers gathered up some of the sacrificed animals and ate their hearts and livers. They all laughed at us for being in a defensive state. Some are bold enough to urinate on us. Laughter filled the room while we trembled. They all made themselves at home in our house to eat and drink, to consume what they wanted. The rest of them pushed us out into the raging storm. We were in peril to drown in the steady downpour. Then some of these left to go into the barn. They took liberties to the point that they killed a few of our best horses, just for sport. We heard the horses' terrible cries as they perished. We trembled, fearing that we were next to face death. Some others devoured the horses like they were slain cattle. The rain revived us back into our senses, so we risked getting out of the tempest to go back inside. It was far different from just an hour ago. Inside the house was now quite dry and warm, with a stout fire and the candles burning bright. The warlock has changed all the rooms around to suit his own personal taste. His magic must be strong to do all these things and to control so many supernatural beings. These odd people then acted more like polite visitors once they quenched their urgent hunger and thirst. This is a sample of the familiar, available on Black Bedsheet Books from downwarden.com, blackbedsheet.goshopper.net. The Familiar, a new ebook for $3.95. Thank you.